Hello and welcome to a special Veterans Day episode of Durst Impressions. In honor of Veterans Day, we're highlighting just a few of the many former military service members who work at the Durst Organization. We want to take this time to hear about their time in the service, as well as their experience at Durst.
I was in the United States Army and I served for 2 years. I was attached to the Test and Evaluation Command of the United States Army and was stationed at the United States Army Field Artillery Board in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, where I was a fire direction specialist.
I was in the U.S. Navy Reserve for a little bit over 4.5 years. So being in the Navy Reserve is really unique. I got to go to college and do my regular things. 1 weekend a month I would go out and do service trainings. For 2 weeks every summer I would do different things across the Navy. Ultimately I went on deployment when I was 19 and I did combat systems through the Straits of Hormuz aboard the USS O'Kane.
I was in the U.S. Army Reserve and I served for about 8 years from 1998 until 2006. I was a chemical operations specialist with special training with civilian mass casualty decontamination.
I served in the United States Navy for a little over 3.5 years. Starting off in my first 2 years, I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. And then after my 2 years, I struck quartermaster rate and I was sent to Washington State, Bremerton.
Veterans Day for me is a very solemn day. First and foremost, because I remember all those who never came home. It saddens me to this day when I think of those who never came back and the suffering that their families had to go through.
Veterans Day is a day we take out every year to honor all the men and women who fought for this country, living and deceased.
There's a day to remember all the veterans, to show them a bit of appreciation for everything they've done, because a lot of us do really put through the ringer where we're away from our families, serving overseas.
I think it's important just to recognize the level of sacrifice that it takes being in the military, whether it's being away from your families or going out in the front line and doing those kind of things that put yourself in harm's way. So I think it's just a good opportunity to tell someone that thanks for the things that you do that really happen 365 days a year.
And it's also a source of pride for me, because I entered at a time where the United States was in a wartime setting. I felt proud that I was a brother in arms with the many, many people that were there with me. And to take pride in being part of something bigger than myself.
I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the Navy for 30 years. He was a fighter pilot. So I knew when I was growing up I wanted to do something that had more meaning than just myself and be a part of something bigger.
The military did instill in me a great deal of confidence, be able to focus on a job at hand and see it through.
The military definitely made me able to work under pressure.
Being in the military definitely trained your mind in a certain way. You have a lot of tact, which I found is really helpful in the workplace. Being really decisive. In the Navy, there's, sometimes life or death decisions on the line, which may be not necessarily true in a corporate workplace, but being able to say, this is the decision I'm going to make and I'm going to stand behind it.
It was kind of an adjustment going from, the strict military lifestyle, and it was always a very serious environment. You were very limited to stuff that civilians take for granted, like taking off, calling out sick. You didn't have that in the military. You worked 24/7, 365. So it was a little bit of an adjustment.
After my time in the service, I eventually entered the New York City Police Department, and it has a command structure which is very similar to the military. I found it very easy to acclimate to my new surroundings based upon my experiences in the military.
It's definitely a great place for veterans. It's a good job where you can move up. Only 2 to 3 months it took me to go from temporary to permanent. So it's definitely a good start coming out of the military.
The company is a really good company. There are opportunities if you are looking for opportunities, if you're willing to push yourself and excel and show that you're worthwhile. It's a company I feel like in time, yes, if you want to move up, it will happen. It's very similar to the military. If you want to move up, you have to work hard and you have to show that you're worth it.
One of the things that impressed me about Durst is the fact that they take great pride in their employees.
Within the people I work with, people have been here for a long time. There's a sense of dedication and pride into doing something that you do, but doing it for a long time and seeing things through. And I think that really relates to being in the military. No matter how long or short you serve, There's this kind of like pride in what you do, and I think that has a very strong sense in everyone I've seen here.
I take great pride in being a veteran of the United States Army and the New York City Police Department. And now I take great pride in being an employee of the Durst Organization, and I thank you.
We also want to recognize and thank the following Durst employees for their service. Durst wants to thank all the past and present veterans around the world and their families for their service, commitment, and sacrifice.